is up, my friends? Welcome to Let It Be Heard, where we are doers of the word, not hearers only. I am your host, Jaden Heard, and today I am here with Anton Krecic, the founder of 7 Weeks Coffee. Anton, good to see you, bro.
Great to be here, Jaden. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. I really enjoy, working with pro-lifers and seeing everyone's story. And a lot of people don't really know that the pro-life movement is it's this very small world, and we all kind of are just kind of all in tune with each other. And it's really amazing to see the different bodies or the different parts of the body that come together to achieve life, right? So, but real quick, I want to give people an opportunity to get to know you. So Anton, why don't you tell me a little bit about you? Let everyone know, where you come from and what prompted you to start 7 Weeks Coffee and the beginnings of it.
Yeah, happy to share. It's been a journey over the last 4.5 years, leading 7 Weeks Coffee from, starting it literally kitchen table with just an idea to save lives through a cup of coffee. And now we've been able to support over 1,000 pro-life organizations, donate over $1.7 million back to these groups through the sale of our coffee. So I can definitely tell you this, from where I started to where we are today, I did not see this come in terms of growth and impact, but just been a blessing to lead this. Obviously, God put it on my heart. But a little bit about me: I grew up in the Ohio area. Was always passionate about conservative and faith-based values, and I got my start in politics actually in D.C. I graduated college, moved down here to the Washington D.C. area. Thought about how could I get involved, bringing godly values into government. I worked for a few organizations, and a lot of that time was in fundraising, raising money for conservative causes, PACs, and all of that. And that was great. It was a great experience, but you just realize how slow Washington is and how little things actually change here. And so when you think about we want to elect people that support biblical values, I'm all for that. We want to support causes or initiatives in Washington, laws that honor and defend the unborn. But a lot of that is hard to do. And so what I realized is, the private sector, people in the real world, can have a big impact supporting and defending life, which is the issue I cared about the most. So I went from raising money for pro-life causes and candidates to just living it out through 7 Weeks Coffee, we're a for-profit business with a simple mission: donate back 10% of every sale to support pregnancy care centers across the nation. It's a transparent way so consumers know that what percentage of their purchase gives back. It's a large portion of our profits. Just so your audience knows, it's 50% of our profits for just donating away. It's a huge amount of money. But we feel called to do that because we want to use what we're doing at 7 Weeks Coffee and our coffee as a tool to really support life and support moms who are facing unplanned pregnancies. Because here's the deal. Whether a law is passed in Washington or not, there is a mom today who's facing an unplanned pregnancy in some city or community across the U.S. And who's going to be there to meet them, right? And someone needs to be there to meet them. And right now, pregnancy resource centers are the groups that support actively moms who are facing unplanned pregnancy. So we focus our mission on supporting pregnancy care centers. Basically want to give dollars to the frontline workers of the pro-life movement, since they are the ones meeting with these moms in need. So that's what we do at 7 Weeks Coffee. That's what we want to bring attention to. And that's how we can truly, help. The idea of ending abortion legally is going to be a long process. It's going to take years to get there because there's just a lot of pushback. There's a lot of Democrats and, pro-choice people in elected office. But in a very practical sense, we could help prevent abortion by just being there for the moms who are facing an unplanned pregnancy. So I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but that's what we do, and that's what we exist to do. And so that's why we're giving back every single month a huge portion of our profits to really fund these pregnancy care centers. And it's been almost 5 years now, like I said, and we're just getting started.
Amen. Yeah, I know you guys got started in 2021, and that's really cool to hear how you got started and all that. What would you say is the mission of 7 Weeks Coffee, and how did the idea come together? Why coffee, all that stuff, out of everything that you could do, where did that come from?
Yeah, great. Yeah, great question. Happy to elaborate. So mission simple: fund the pro-life movement 1 cup of coffee at a time. That's our mission. How did it come to be? I was always passionate about business, passionate about bringing like conservative values or Christian values, and especially the pro-life values, into business. And I literally Googled pro-life coffee one day. It was totally God. I don't know why I Googled it. I was like, yeah, there's got to be like value-based businesses, and I like coffee. I was like, there's value-based, coffee companies are a thing. And I was like, there's got to be like a coffee company for Christians or pro-lifers, and literally nothing came up. And it was like a light bulb moment. I'm like, literally today. I was like, I'm starting this today. I called my wife. I was like almost in a panic. I'm like, hey, I got this idea. I'm going to start a pro-life coffee company. What do you think? And she was like, wait, what are you doing? This is literally 2 weeks after we got married. So it's like, catching her off guard. I'm like trying to pivot into a business real quick, right when we're just getting settled into married life. And I'm hitting her with this idea, but she asked me the inspiring question. She's like, well, what are you going to call it? I said, I don't know yet. And then she asked, when is a baby the size of a coffee bean? So I look it up. At 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. At the same time, a heartbeat's detected on ultrasound. I'm like, perfect. 7 weeks coffee, donate back 10% of every sale to support ultrasound services. So mission, name, and everything came together right then and there. And we've been off to the races since.
Wow, that's incredible. And you mentioned that you guys have donated over $1 million since 2021. As an entrepreneur and a business guy yourself, a lot of people will say like, well, maybe it's better to keep businesses separate from your, values, or maybe it might drive away consumers or whatever, and it might only, allow you to make only so much money. How do you like navigate through that? What is something that you hold dear to yourself, being a Christian entrepreneur?
Well, I think I think it's like we have to refute that narrative. I think Christians are called to actively take hold of all different areas of the world we live in. And one of that is the economic area. Like, here's the end at the end of the day, money is going to flow through businesses, and the people that, either work for those companies, the companies or what they support is always going to be on the table. Like, there's going to be an agenda that the companies and businesses lay out, and they are going to be using their dollars and resources to promote a certain agenda. And so as Christians, we need to see that as like an opportunity to recapture, reclaim, and use that, use our resources, especially in business, for the kingdom. Like, so we need to recapture, business for godly use. And I think it's important that Christian, people see business as something they shouldn't like abdicate, but they should take authority over. Like, at the end of the day, someone is going to be spending dollars in the economy. Wouldn't we want more Christian business owners to have a say of that? Wouldn't it be great if the CEO of Amazon was a Bible-believing Christian? You know what I mean? It's like these businesses are going to exist. Like, why not capture them for the Lord in a sense, and just really live out our calling, which is to steward what God gave us. And a lot of what he's given us is talents to thrive in business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know that you guys pay for ultrasounds as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what we do is, just to clarify, so we specifically earmark like 95% every dollar goes to a local pregnancy resource center, and their primary thing that they provide for women who are facing unplanned pregnancy is a free ultrasound. So yes, we are definitely funding those through the pregnancy care centers that we support.
Why are ultrasounds like important? Like, I'm sure you maybe have statistics or something, or maybe like something that like, I can't remember what I heard it once at a pro-life event, but
sure,
ultrasounds seem really important, especially to pregnancy resource centers. Why do you think so?
Well, yeah, a lot of the statistics back it up, which is roughly 80% of women who hear their child's heartbeat for the first time will choose life. So usually, it's the greatest lie, right? That it's just a clump of cells, not something living inside you. And so the pro-choicers who love abortion want to prevent women from hearing their child's heartbeat, because they know the moment that happens, there's a very good chance that mom is going to realize, like, hey, like, this isn't just like a blob of tissues. Like, this is my son or daughter's heart beating, and I can hear that. And that is so powerful. And so that's why we support, local centers, so they can, really grow their ultrasound programs. But it's one of the most important things in the pro-life movement.
Love that. And I know you guys have the way that your beans are sourced and all this stuff. You guys also advocate for the way farmers are treated. So it's even beyond the abortion issue. Tell us a little bit more about that, and like, your beans and, how all that process. And I know, don't you guys like pay like 3 times more, 2 times more? I don't even remember what it was, like way more than what you really should for like I don't know if you pay to farmers a lot more, kind of explain that for the audience.
Sure. Happy to. And let me just broad stroke, like why this is important is like, as Christians in business, we want to have excellence in all that we do. And for us, excellence is not just supporting moms. It's providing a product that is, better than anything out there. Like by far, 7 Wings Coffee is some of the highest grade specialty coffee you can get. It's the most ethical way you can source coffee, which means direct from farmers. So most coffee is bought through a brokerage, which is a middleman that upsells coffee, meaning farmers are often paid pennies on the dollar. We buy directly from farmers, which means they can earn 3 times, in some instances, what fair trade requires. Wow. So it's not fair trade, it's direct trade. It's the most highest and transparent way to source coffee. And so because of these personal relationships we have through our importers, we're able to have complete transparency of the supply chain from the farm to the processing, to the sorting, shipping, and roasting. We have complete transparency. It really leads to the excellent product. It absolutely means that all the farmers that, our coffee is sourced from are getting paid ethical living, life-sustaining wages where they can grow their own business. And it provides a great quality product for the customer. So it's really a win-win, but allows us to really live out our mission, which is pro-abundant life. We want to support the farmers that are growing our coffee, and also the moms of the pregnancy care center. So that's really important to us. And so, obviously, if anyone listening here is a big fan of coffee, you're not going to be let down with what we have.
That's good to hear. You mentioned pro-abundantly, or living pro-abundantly life, right? Your pro-abundantly life. Like, what does that actually mean for those listening?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a holistic view of life in general. And like, it just means like, we value all of life, from conception to natural death. Like as Christians, we should care about like how people are doing through all stages of life. And it's a big misnomer. So many people on the pro-choice side, just the people who like abortion, say, well, you just want the baby to be born. You don't care about like what happens after that. And I just refute that completely. It's literally completely untrue. Everyone I know and who work with in the pro-life movement, we like deeply care that like these children are cared for, protected, nurtured, and have as much resources as possible so they can live life to their full God-given potential. Which is why, what these pregnancy care centers do is so important. Like, part of what they're doing is also like sharing the gospel, which is the most important thing you can do. And so, pro-abundant life is the attitude that all pro-lifers need to be. And, it's just something we care deeply at 7 Wings Coffee.
Love it, man. What would you say is like your guys' biggest criticisms like that you get? And I guess, how do you answer them? If there's any. I don't know how you criticize some good coffee that supports pregnancy resource centers.
I'll just say this, when we first started, it's been overwhelmingly supported. And that's been so cool to see like how many people love what we do. And I take that to heart. It's like people love this concept of 7 Wings Coffee, of supporting life through your morning cup of coffee. And it was a huge need, and it's really cool to see. But obviously we do get some hate. We get some of those, nasty emails and vulgar language and people attacking us for what we do. And, for us, that just means we're over the target. We're doing the right thing. We're standing for something important that needs to be talked about in our culture. And we're proud of that.
What do you hope that like other maybe Christian potential entrepreneurs can take from your story and like how you know, built this amazing company that supports life?
Sure. I'd say it's okay to be outspoken about your values within your company. And secondly, it's okay if you don't make that your primarily objective either, but you have to use your business for the Lord in some capacity. That's the biggest thing. It's not that everyone needs to be as outspoken as we are. I get that. Like if you have a plumbing company or an HVAC company or some type of services business, like it's okay. Like you're not making everything about like a political or, a biblical statement on the outset. But as a business owner, like you need to see your business as owned by the Lord's, and you were just a steward of it, because the money you're going to make and the revenue that you're going to generate and the profits that you have, you need to use that for the Lord in whatever capacity that is. So I just say start there.
Do you think the future of not only I guess the country as a whole, like do you think how much do you think the building of these alternative institutions or businesses for Christians, conservatives, pro-lifers, how much do you think that plays into a role for the future of this country and even just your fellow neighbors?
Yeah, I just at the highest level, like businesses are not bipartisan anymore. Like we saw this with like the 2020s through COVID and all these social ideologies the big corporate companies like push on. Like there's this huge political and social, ideology that is pushed upon Americans. And a lot of Americans are pro-life conservative people. And like we're having to take all these ideologies and like, basically turn a blind eye if you want to shop at a certain, place. And I think people are just realizing like that's just the world we live in and we need to have alternatives. And so that's what we're trying to do with 7 Weeks Coffee.
Do you think that more men need to step up, as a whole in society, and what role do men play in the pro-life movement?
Yeah, there needs to be much more men involved in the pro-life movement. Just think of it this way, with every abortion, that happens out there, it's just as much as a father's child as it is a mom's. Like we are both equally involved in this. And I love that so many pro-life organizations, especially pregnancy care centers, are led by women. That's a great thing. But we do need more men in this. Like at the end of the day, like this is a cultural fight to defend the most vulnerable. And I think historically, especially biblically, men are required to defend the most vulnerable. And so, yeah, time to get men. Like men have a voice in this. Like we can be really like upset that there is such an atrocity taking place from this like biblical manhood perspective of I don't want to see the most vulnerable in my society killed every day. And as a man, that should really infuriate you that that's happening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the most masculine thing to do is to protect the most vulnerable, which are women and children, and both of which are, in a way, definitely victims of a lack of men being leaders, right? Good, godly leaders, because this has led to more abortion. It's led to, obviously, I mean, really, if you look back at every other human rights violation in history, it was because of the lack of godly leadership in men. Like men did not step up. But then the ending of all those human rights violations happened because godly men who loved their neighbor stood against human rights atrocities. And so I totally agree with you, man. What do you think are the pitfalls of the pro-life movement? What can we get better? What can we improve on? But also, what are we doing right that you really like?
Well, what we're doing right is there's a lot of great things. I'm always going to speak for the pregnancy centers we get to support, which is there's so many organizations across the U.S. that are in local communities, like just literally saving lives every single day. And like they are making an impact. So I think sometimes we look at the news and we see all these like negative headlines of like, things not happening the way we'd want them to from a pro-life perspective. But we have to realize like there's a lot of good people that are dedicating their lives to this. And I really admire that. I've met so many amazing, pregnancy center directors, and I love what they do. But, just what we can do better, fix rather, is that there just needs to be more unity in the pro-life movement. There's a lot of debates within, certain issues of pro-life, how we should handle that, and like, it's sad to see pro-lifers have such vehemently disagreements with one another. And I just think that's terrible, honestly. And I don't know necessarily if there's like an easy fix to that, but there needs to be more unity for sure, especially from pro-life groups to pro-life groups. And I pray for that. I want that. If I can help bridge the gap, we want to do that. We're here to be a support to all pro-life institutions. We want to support them all in the work that they do, because there's a lot of important things that they do. And so we hope everyone can get together as well and be of like mind in this fight for life.
I'm curious, do you have like a story that you would like to tell the audience, or a testimony when it comes to you running this company?
I mean, God has been there every step of the day, every step of the way, and literally every single day. And I can't tell you how many times my prayer is just, Lord, protect this company, protect what we do, help us make the right decisions, because I don't know what we should do here. And, there's 1,000 things from, how to run the business, or, things that we have to decide within the business, or problems that arise, and, all these different things that, pop up. But I do remember specifically this one time. It was really early on when we were getting started. We bought a bunch of coffee for this event, and, obviously we're, buying our inventory, and, it was a big expense. And we ended up having like a couple hundred bags of coffee like left, maybe like 100 or so, maybe a bunch of bags. I'm like, dang man, I wish we sold these. Like we were like, really small. This is like early on. I was like, dang, this would be, really good revenue for the company. How am I going to sell these now? Like, I was really bummed out about it. I remember this one guy, he walked up. He's like, how many bags you got left? I'm like, I'm starting to count. I'm like, we got at least 100 or 200, sir. Like, we got a lot here. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll take them all. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I start packing them up, and I'm like, dude, this is like the last guy to come to our booth. I'm like, thank you so much. Like, this literally made my day. I literally saved the receipt. So I'm starting to pack them up. Give him the credit card thing. He pays for it, and then he pays for it. And he's like, just keep them. And so he just let us keep the coffee, and he walked away. It was the coolest. I've never talked to him since. I have no idea who he is. It was literally like the kindest thing I've ever seen. And those little God winks like throughout that happen. I mean, things like that happen like literally all the time. You can just look back and see how God just like used someone to pick you up when you needed it, and that was one of them.
And he made you work for it too, Anton. He made you pack up those bags. And
He did.
bro.
He did. He got me halfway. Well, I had to pack them up anyway, so you got my job just expedited.
There you go. I love that, man. Speaking of just really good testimonies, how the Lord does His little God wink, which we've all experienced so much of. What is like a Bible verse that you would say that really speaks to you, or maybe even something that you're reading right now? It could be either one, but what's like your life verse, whatever. Whatever you want to give.
I'd say it's more my life chapter, which is Matthew 25, the parable of the talents, and I've read that. I've talked to a lot of people about this chapter and this idea of stewardship, that God entrusts every believer, and this is kind of relating to our earlier conversation, is that I have this deep conviction that every believer has a certain talent that they are required to use for the Lord. And so many times Christians think the only way I can serve the Lord is to be uninvolved in culture, uninvolved in society, and just lock myself in the four walls of their church. I don't want to be tempted with money. I don't want to be tempted with success. I don't want to be tempted with, and they see all as temptations. When I think Matthew 25 says, God says, use your talents for the master. And so if that's building a business, go build a business for the Lord. If that's being outspoken on culture, and if that grows, if that makes you like a tool for the Lord to be someone who can stand against what's happening, and He wants us involved in the real world. And so Matthew 25, parable of talents, I think just really, calls us to that, is that we have a talent to live and to grow and to steward. And the only person reprimanded in that story is the person who just does nothing.
Yep.
And I think like we all have to do something to the point where I feel like we need to feel like we're expected to. Like this is not an option. And so I believe that's what people who sometimes are struggling for, like, what's God's will for my life, or how can I be used by the Lord, or should I even be involved in something because maybe it's too controversial or whatever it is. When it's like, no, like use your talents that He has given you for the kingdom. And that's going to be in a lot of like real world scenarios. Like it's going to be in the workplace. It's going to be in business. It's going to be in your family. It's going to be in your community. It's going to be like outside of like your church. And I think that's what we need to realize.
Amen, Anton. Man, I love that so much. Yeah, we don't want to be slothful servants, and everyone has a calling, but it's up to us to have a proper response, right? And so, what are some ways people can support 7 Weeks Coffee, including, financially? Where can they go to donate, but also just anything else practically that individuals can do to support y'all? Yeah,
it's pretty simple. We're a for-profit company, so just pick up a bag of 7 Weeks Coffee if you drink coffee, and let your morning coffee start serving a greater purpose and save lives. So,
love it, man. Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to see where it goes from here, and I just know that the Lord's hand is in it. So, really appreciate everything you guys do. Anton, any last words? Where can people find you on social media? You can plug yourself.
Yeah, just at 7 Weeks Coffee is all our handles. Just go there. That's our website too. So feel free to check it out.
Anton's like, don't follow me. Go follow 7 Weeks. Stay away from me.
For the business. I don't have too much going on my socials.
That's funny. Okay, Anton, well, I appreciate you, man, for coming on. Everyone, go check out 7 Weeks Coffee. And Anton, what is like any last words that you have for anyone listening?
Yeah, just get started with what God's put on your heart today.
Amen. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, comment, and share, y'all. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next one.